Hi, I'm Chance Glenn. I'm the founder of the Morningbird Academy, and I'm a senior instructor for the Certified Additive Manufacturing Level 1 course that you're taking part in at this very moment. Today we're going to look at the assembly of the Creality Ender Fusion Deposition Modeling 3D printer. We'll walk through those steps, and at the end of it, you'll have your very own 3D printer that you'll be using throughout the rest of this course and for subsequent courses that are to follow. So come on, let's put it together.
The Creality Ender 3 Fusion Deposition Modeling 3D printer package comes with a series of 19 distinct parts along with nuts, bolts, and fasteners. These parts are the interface screen, the print bed affixed to the Y-axis assembly, the 230 volt or 115 volt power supply, the X-axis print head and roller fixture, the Z-axis roller assembly, the X-axis and Y-axis stepper motors and assemblies, the X-axis belt assembly, the Z-axis motor and shaft fixture, the Z-axis end stop fixture, the filament roll holder, the filament roll holder arm, two frame cover fixtures, the detachable power cord, the axis drive belt, the lower horizontal frame bar, the upper horizontal frame bar, the Z-axis drive shaft, the left vertical frame bar and the right vertical frame bar. There are 7 sets of bolts and fasteners. All of the required tools for assembly come with the kit as well. After all of the parts are laid out in an organized fashion, we're ready to begin step 1. The first step is to affix the left and right vertical frame bars to the print bed fixture. The 4 long M5X45 bolts are used to secure them to the bed fixture frame from underneath. Do not fully tighten the bolts until the entire fixture is assembled. Now we can move on to step 2. Next, we want to attach the control screen to the front of the printer and the power supply to the back side of the right vertical frame bar. 2 small M5X8 screws are used to screw the screen in place. The mid-sized Allen wrench should be used for this attachment. 2 M4X20 screws should be used to attach the power supply to the frame bar. Again, do not completely tighten everything in place until you have completed assembly. Also, note that there's a switch setting for the power supply. In the United States, that should be set to 115 volts. The factory setting is 230 volts. Use the small screwdriver to set it to the appropriate voltage. We're making good progress, so let's move on. Here we affix the Z-axis end stop sensor to the outside of the left vertical frame bar. The sensor needs to be slid down into the groove of the bar. Be sure to loosen the bolt so that the T-nuts can rotate freely. Once the sensor's in place, tighten and make sure that the T-nut is positioned vertically so that it holds firmly within the groove. The sensor lever should be facing upward so that it is triggered when the vertical print bar touches it. We'll see how this works later. The next step is to attach the Z-axis stepper motor to the right vertical frame bar using two M4X18P screws inserted into the plastic housing on the motor and into the two holes available at the base of the bar. It's a little tricky to get them started, but once in, it should screw snugly into place. It's important to make sure that the motors for the translational axes are straight and secure. Next, the threaded Z-axis drive shaft gets placed down into the opening on the top of the motor. The two locking screws should be tightened to provide a firm fit. The shaft should turn with minimal wobbling. The next steps are the assembly of the X-axis bar with the print head and Z-axis rollers. First, slide the print head rollers onto the X-axis bar so that it smoothly moves back and forth. Then take the two M4X16 screws and affix the Z-axis roller to the back side of the X-axis bar. The tabs for connecting the drive belt should point towards the back. Add the belt adjustment assembly to the end using the locking T-nuts and leave somewhat loose for adjustment. Finally, prepare to run the belt through and slide the ends through the slots on either side of the bottom X-axis roller. The metal tips are there to hold the belt in place under tension. Next, we want to connect the X-axis drive belt so that the print head moves smoothly back and forth across the X-axis bar. The teeth of the belt should face downwards and wrap around the grooves of the gears on either end. Insert one end of the belt onto the slot so that the metal tip holds it in place. Thread the belt through and around, then stretch it so that the other end slips into the second slot. Keep the belt adjustment assembly loose until you have completed connecting the belt. Once the belt is in place, you can pull the assembly outward so that the belt is pulled taut. Now affix the completed horizontal X-axis arm to the vertical frame bars. The Z-axis shaft should be carefully screwed down through the threaded opening on the left rear side of the printer. Be careful to make sure the X-axis arm remains level. Turn the Z-axis shaft to lower the bar down to the midway point. Make sure it moves smoothly up and down with the turn of the shaft. The next step is to connect the top horizontal frame bar with 4 M5X25 screws. Be sure to orient the bar so that the grooved openings for the screws face upward. The screws should settle down into the bar. Attach the two frame cover pieces to the left and right sides of the vertical frame bars. We're almost done with the physical assembly. We now attach the filament roll holder to the top of the printer. Use two M5X8 screws and the M5 T-nut to allow the holder to face towards the rear of the printer. Slide the vertical holder piece to a position just left of center, then tighten the screws so that the T-nut holds it firmly into place. Connect the dowel through the hole on the vertical holder and tighten by screwing on the round plastic cap. Finish tightening all of the bolts throughout the printer to make sure it is firm and stable. Make sure that all 4 of the bed leveling adjustment caps are in place. The physical assembly of the printer is now complete. It's now time to complete the electrical connections to the printer. The connector wires are labeled and are near to the spots that they should go. Do not force any connectors into their slots. All of the connections should be made smoothly. We connect the power cable, the display cable, connections to the X, Y, and Z stepper motors, the connection to the filament drive stepper motor, the filament feeder tube, the Z-axis sensor connection, and of course the power cable into the power supply. Inspect the printer to make sure all of these connections are made cleanly and flush to their surfaces. Before powering up the printer, make sure that the voltage setting on the power supply is set to the appropriate voltage for your power outlet. In the United States, 115 volts is the proper setting. Now for the moment of truth. Plug in the power cable into the wall socket and power up the printer using the switch on the right side of the power supply next to the power cable. You should see the display light up and a welcome message with the extruder temperature, the bed temperature, the fan status, the X, Y, and Z positions, the print status, and a ready message. The printer comes with an adaptable memory card holder and a micro memory card. The holder allows for the micro card to be inserted into a standard USB drive. The micro card inserts in the slot on the lower left side of the printer beneath the bed. The printer can also be directly connected to a computer by USB cable. As you cycle through the display menu, you'll be able to manually move the bed and print arm. It is also a best practice to go through a leveling process. If you activate the home setting, the printer will go to what it believes to be 000 by using the end-stop sensors. Move the head to different positions on the bed and adjust the leveling rollers beneath the bed so that the extruder tip is about the width of a piece of paper above the bed. With that, we are ready to print. There's a slicer program provided on the memory card. This slicer transforms an STL drawing file into the appropriate G-code to drive the printer. We selected the drawing of the maze for our first print. Selecting it from the print menu allows us to start the printer on its way. We've successfully used our printer to create our first object and measured it to make sure it was printed appropriately. Now here it is.
Alright, congratulations. You've assembled your first 3D printer. You've assembled the Creality Ender Fusion Deposition Modeling 3D printer, and you'll be using this throughout the remainder of the training that you'll receive from us here at the Morningbird Academy. For that and other questions you might have, be sure to check out our website at www.morningbirdacademy.com. I'm Chance Glenn. Thanks for hanging out with me.